Hey guys, um, hopefully you've finished the 1 point perspective introduction where you went and found a 1 point perspective in your real life and you took a photo, and then the boxes practice. Those are really important doing in order so that you're building up and your knowledge is prepared for this assignment. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a 1 point perspective, kind of like railroad track desert scene. And why we do this is it's a good practice to learn 1 point perspective, and it's going to prepare you for the project that you're going to do on your own. And with perspective, I get students on both ends of the spectrum. I have students who have never done this before. This is completely foreign. And so they need a lot of steps, right, as we're learning. And then some that have done this before and have drawn something similar to this image. So if you're in either boat, this is going to be helpful to you. I'm going to break it down so that you know what to do in simple steps. And then also, I just feel like I tell my advanced students, this is good to go back and refine basic skills. As myself as a teacher, and I've taught this perspective unit numerous times, I see myself getting better each time that I draw. I also compare it to sports, right? So if an athlete, has a certain skill they're working on, they're not going to master it once, right? Like Donovan Mitchell's not going to get onto the court, shoot a hoop and make it and say, sweet, I'm done, I'm ready for the game. He's going to continue to practice shooting over and over again and practice. So I tell my advanced students the same thing. You've got to really practice that muscle and get yourself better and better because you can always improve. No one has mastered art. Everyone is always learning and getting better. So for this assignment, same deal as before. You're going to need a piece of paper, some type of straight edge. If you don't have a ruler, you can fold up a piece of paper, use the edge, a pencil, and an eraser. We erase a lot in perspective because you're using a lot of lines to guide you. So this video is, this assignment is going to be broken into 2 parts because technically this takes about a normal class period and a half. So we only online, our classes are only 40 minutes. So I'm going to break this video into 2. So we'll stop halfway through. You'll take a picture, submit what you've done so far, and then if you're ready to move on, then you can go to the next assignment and keep working on it and finish it. Take a picture of the finished product and upload it. So, like I said, we are doing a desert scene railroad track. So, just like before, we need a horizon line and we need a vanishing point. So this one isn't going to be quite in the middle, probably about 3/4 of the way up from the center. This doesn't need to be exact, but just it's not right in the middle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to draw our horizon line. So take your ruler, line it up straight, and draw your horizon line. Okay, so again, your horizon line is kind of where your perspective would be. So this one, we're going to be kind of looking up higher. So let's go ahead and put our vanishing point right in the middle. Now, in both practices that we've done, we've had it in the middle, but it could be over here, or it could be anywhere on that horizon line that vanishing point can land. So, but we're just learning, we're keeping it basic, so we're going to keep it there. So from here, we're going to do a railroad track. So at the bottom of our paper, and hopefully my paper's in the shot, we are going to measure just by putting little lines about how wide we want our railroad track to be. So hopefully you can see those little marks at the bottom. I'm only making it a few inches wide. It doesn't need to be huge. Okay, so about here and here is where I put my measurement lines, and the vanishing point should be somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to line it up with the mark that I just measured and the vanishing point. Then I'm going to draw a line. Okay, now I'm gonna I'm gonna connect my ruler again to the vanishing point and that mark that we just made. Okay, so what we have right now looks like a triangle, but it will come to life in a little bit. So these are the lines of the railroad track, but that's very flat, non-dimensional. Train tracks have like a metal rail. So we're gonna make this a little thicker. So I'm gonna put 2 markings again, just outside those 2 lines that we created. I feel like I should say, if I'm going too fast, remember you can pause the video, watch what I've done, replicate it, and then hit play again whenever you need to get caught up. Okay, so I put those 2 markings outside the triangle line that we just did. And I'm gonna go ahead again, lining up my ruler with the vanishing point and the mark that I just made. And I'm going to draw another line, okay? Same thing on the other side. Take that ruler, line it up with the vanishing point and that extra line, and you're gonna draw. Okay, so you can see that now we have the metal rail, okay? So the next thing that we're gonna draw are the wood planks. So the wood planks are going to be wide down here and they're gonna get smaller. Because notice how our lines got really narrow at the vanishing point, and that's because, like we learned before, things get smaller as they go into space. Up here, they're gonna be really wide. That's super important for you to understand for the project because you're gonna see that happening a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna draw the wood plank boards. So I'm gonna do a few of them to begin with, and then I would recommend you starting to do them. So actually backtrack, we need to draw guidelines out here. So you're gonna draw a set of lines out here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your ruler, and why we have to draw these guidelines is because we need to know where the boards of our train track are gonna end, right? Because we can't just randomly decide. There's a rule of perspective. So I want the last board to end about here. So that's about an inch away from the metal rail that we made. And like I said, we're gonna do this one a little lighter because you will be erasing parts of this line. Okay, so we have a line right there, and then we're gonna do another one outside the other rail that we just made. Same width. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. You're probably looking at it thinking, that doesn't really look like a whole lot, it just looks like a set of lines. Okay, but just want to make a checkpoint here. We need to have these 2 lines inside, those are the metal rails. Then you need to have a set of lines outside the rail. These are gonna be guidelines for the wood plank boards. So this is the part that you can watch me do it and then go ahead and start drawing them. So our boards are gonna be right horizontal. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna line up my ruler just towards the bottom of this picture. And I'm gonna draw a line starting at the guideline. You're gonna draw, and then you're gonna stop once you get to that metal rail, skip over the metal rail, and then you're gonna draw a line, stop once you get to the second metal rail, skip over, and draw. Okay, so you can see where that's the first line of the board. So keep watching, don't draw yet. Line up my ruler straight. I'm gonna draw a line starting at the guideline, going to the metal rail, skip over, line in between, second rail, skip over, keeping our ruler straight. Mine just moved a little. Okay, that's the first board. Now, keep watching. I want you to pay attention to this next part because this is where it really starts to click. Notice that this board is wide. I'm going to get a little more narrow once I get more into space, but I'm going to leave a little gap right here because we're going to the next wood board. So I'm going to start at the guideline, draw a line at the metal rail, skip over, draw another line, skip over, and draw a line. Okay. So like I said, this one's gonna be a little more narrow, so I'm not gonna make it as wide as I did this one, okay? Because rules of perspective, they get smaller. Same deal as before, start at the guideline, skip over the railing, skip over the railing. Okay, so you can see wood board of the train 1, 2, and then I'll continue, but I wanna show you, I'm gonna erase the guideline in between these two, right? So we no longer need those. And that's why it's important that you drew the guideline kind of lighter because we don't necessarily need that. So you can see that we have the start of 1 board, 2 boards, and I'm going to continue into space. Now, these boards should get so narrow that you're going to have just little lines at the end that are not going to really even look like boards. They're just going to look like little lines in space because that's how narrow and close together everything's going to get. So you can go ahead, if you feel like you understand what I was saying, you can go ahead and draw your wood boards. I'm going to continue to do them. You can pause the video, you can keep watching, and then pause. Is up to you. Okay, I'm drawing my line, skipping over that metal rail. Again, we're getting more gradually narrow. So this is the point in which you're going to see that things are going to start getting really narrow and closer together to the point that they're going to look like we've just got some lines. Less and less detailed. Okay, so you can see now where it went into space. I waited to do all my boards, and then now I'm gonna go through and erase the extra guidelines in between that I no longer need. Okay. And then like I want to adjust this one right here. Fix that corner a little bit, so if there's any that you want to adjust. Okay, now I'm going to go to this side. It's kind of hard to dodge some of the lines, so I'm going to have to fix it and make it look good. So okay. So I did do that pretty fast. It might take you some time to do that because I've done this a lot. So speedy for me. So if you need to pause right now, then get your boards ready to go. Because we're gonna add one last thing to the boards. Okay, so this looks pretty good, right? We've got this railroad track going into space. It's getting more narrow, so we have like this really strong emphasis of perspective, and it looks good. But the boards are still like just very flat and non-dimensional. So we're actually gonna add one little thing to our boards so that they look like they're dimensional. We want them to actually look like wood plank boards. And right now we're just seeing the tops of them. In theory, we'd be able to see just like the little sides of them. So what I mean by that is I'll jump up to this one so you can kind of see it better. I'm gonna take my ruler and I'm gonna go to the corner of the board, okay? And I'm just gonna draw, not really big, just a little straight vertical line down from the corner. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Go to the corner, little small edge, okay? So it drops down. Then I'm gonna line up my ruler at the bottom of those two lines that I just made. And I'm gonna draw a line that starts at the little line, goes to the metal rail, skips over the rail, just like we did in the beginning, skips over the rail and touches back. So now you can see that that made that board an actual board instead of just this really flat surface. So I'm gonna do that probably up until this point here. We don't need to go all the way back because again, we lose detail as we get closer to the vanishing point. That's just a rule of atmospheric perspective. We have 1 point perspective, atmospheric perspective, 2 point, and that's just in general a rule. Okay, so I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna go to my board, I'm gonna go to the corner, I'm gonna drop down a little line, go to the opposite corner, drop down a little line, take my ruler horizontally, line up at the bottom of those little lines, I'm gonna draw, skip over the metal rail, draw, skip over the metal rail. Okay. Same deal as before. This one I might not even have to do the horizontal line because it goes to the page. And these will get more narrow, right? Because they're getting closer to the vanishing point. So you won't drop down your line as thick. You can really see where it adds a lot more dimension than what we had before. Okay, so there you have your railroad track. Okay, so that's all that we'll do on the railroad track as far as perspective. In the end, I want you guys to go through and touch these up and refine them and make them unique. And then you'll hand it in. So if you want to add more stuff to it, you can. But for now, we're just going to leave it here. We're going to add one more thing, and then I will cut the video and we'll start part 2 because that railroad track takes majority of the first portion. So we are going to do, I'll give you a rough layout. We're going to be doing a sidewalk here, a little house here, and then we will have like a little stream over here and then some trees. I used to do power lines, but we're going to do trees this time. So what we're going to start with is the sidewalk. Now I know that sounds bizarre to have a sidewalk and house by the railroad track, but that picture in the introduction to perspective where I did a picture of the trail by my house, that actually used to be a railroad track, and it's right in the backyard of people's houses. So it does happen. So just like we did like a little triangle spotlight for the railroad track, we're going to do a spotlight triangle right here off to the side with where the sidewalk's going to be. So we're going to do just a few inches, well, just 1 inch probably from the bottom here, lining up to the vanishing point. So 1 inch down here. We're going to draw a line. This is going to be, like I said, our sidewalk line. So we don't need to do it too large because sidewalks aren't ginormous, right? They're just little narrow sidewalks. So again, probably just over 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches over here. I'm going to draw a line. Okay, so now we have our cute little sidewalk. So we're gonna go ahead and draw our sidewalk square lines. Really easy, just like we did the wood planks. So down here would be our widest sidewalk block. So making sure our ruler is very horizontally straight. That's something I wanted to talk to you guys about. I saw a lot of people when they were closing off their boxes, when they handed in the assignment, they were flopping their lines is what I call that. You got to keep it horizontally and vertically very straight because then it starts to ruin the perspective and the illusion of perspective. Okay, so I'm doing my sidewalk lines. Notice how thick they are, and then we are going to start getting very narrow. This is where a clear ruler is kind of helpful because then you can see where your lines are landing. I don't have one of those because it's in my classroom. Getting closer together as we span closer to the vanishing point. You're going to hear me say that over and over again because you need to learn that. So important to your project. Okay, and then again, these are going to become little lines. Okay, ta-da, we have a sidewalk and a railroad track. Okay, so that is where I will end this portion of the video. And then, like I said, take a picture, upload this. I want to see the progress between, you know, you're following the video and making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Take a picture, upload it, and then if you're ready to do the next part, like if you're like, hey, it's game time, I want to get this picture done, then go to the next assignment, part 2, and you can finish it. If not, you can wait until the next day to do it.